Right, so we're on to part two now of this Midland 76900, which is on bits here. Now, the customer is a trade customer and he sent a speaker to me, which I'm expecting today. That post should arrive within half an hour. So I thought, well, what we'll do, we'll get on with the power supply, because the set's finished. It's now all just, I don't need the test set on, it's just sorting out all the silly little things. We need to rebuild the power supply, and we need to sort out, they used the dimmer switch here, and whilst the front's off, it might be a bit easier to get the soldering iron in and sort out where they've put links in and cut the tracks. So that's something which I will do. So it was a nice result, and once again it's a shame this happened to such a high quality set. We've got this customer's got an audio line 345 with us. That will be next. That's had the 80 channel kiss of death. And then we've got a Uniden 300. I'm going to get the Uniden 300 to skip its I'm going to skip some other repairs. I know it's not fair to people sending repairs in, but whilst we've got all set up for doing the Uniden board, may as well do that set as well, because as long as it's not had any stupid modifications, it can probably be done in 90 minutes. So I'm going to return all these base stations personally. They're all within 120 miles, because something like this in the post, it's not a matter of, you know, if it got lost, it doesn't matter what insurance you've got. Remember, this is an interesting point. I bought off eBay a Alba CBM5. It's that dreadful chassis used in the Harvard Good Buddy, and it was in a box, not working, in a box, and it was at Derby. Well, Derby's what, 60 miles away from here, so not a big deal, and it was sent by Yodel. So Yodel tried to deliver it and wanted a signature. And I always say, whenever people send stuff here, don't ask for a signature. I'm in the middle of nowhere, there's cameras from here to there. You know, if something's gone missing, I'm going to know it's gone missing. I'm going to know who made it go missing. So you don't need to do this signature lark. Anyway, Yodel did this ridiculous signature thing. It's called pseudo quality. It's not real quality, it's pseudo quality. Went back to the depot, because invariably we're in and out all the time, and the depot then lost it. So they gave me a refund. It was insured. I got my £5 back. And that doesn't get me my as new in box broken Alba CBM5, does it? And so, you know, what did they pay for this? 199 quid. What's the service bill going to be? 50, something like that, by the time we're done with all those parts. So you insure it, you know, it stands the customer then at 250 quid and whatever the handling charges for the dealer. But it doesn't get them a new one, does it? Even if they coughed up 250 quid. You can't put a perceived value. You can't say, well, I think if we do the inflation, it's worth £1,027. Because it doesn't work like that. Now I bought something in America, and American viewers, please take heed to this. I bought before we were in, we'd gone out of the European thingy, and before Brexit, you kind of got clobbered every so many parcels. Some didn't get VAT put on, and some had huge charges put on. And it's so much better now, because you know you pay your VAT, which is 20% in this country, and it's going to come. That's it. No, there's no post office decided to charge you £15 when it was a £2 item. I don't mind paying another 20% on a £2 item, £2.40, but not with a £15 post office charge, which was what was happening. Anyway, I digress. It was one of those realistic DX100 receivers, which is the bottom of the line one. We're going to do a video on aligning it, and I'm going back about 6 years. I paid £16.50 for that radio, and obviously I paid a lot of postage to get it from America, probably $30. You know what the vendor put on the parcel? Value $99.99. So I had to pay VAT and duty on what they declared of $100. Whereas if they had put the truth on the declaration of £16.50, it would have been under the threshold, which is why I wasn't paying more than £16.50 anyway. So you don't think for a moment if these things get missing, oh, it was worth $100. No, it gets researched and they found it's worth $16.50. So, yeah, don't ever do that. Don't enhance the value because it doesn't work. Right, rant over, and now the soldering iron will have warmed up and we'll get these capacitors out. I'm hoping everything's in stock because I'd hate this to be delayed even further. I didn't do any radios yesterday because this was on the bench. It's alright if it's a mobile, I can shove it in a box, but when it's this size I can't. And with the front off there's a lot of stuff out. These are glued as well, so it's not as straightforward as you would hope. Yeah, they've gone and bent the pins over. So what we're going to have to do is cut those off. Well, that's one cut off successfully. And out. Yay! Now, very carefully, I haven't turned it round because I must be absolutely sure which way this came out. So it's come out. You've really got to take notice because this printed circuit board is made for various different models, and so positive and negative are marked both ways. So the way this has come out, and we can tell with glue round this edge had I got modelled up, because it's got glue mainly on that edge, is negative to the left, so positive to the right. But you'll see the printed circuit board says positive to the left, positive to the right, depending whether it's the A or the B option. So now this capacitor probably still works okay, but at this age, for the fibre they cost, it's worth doing. Now, yes, there are cheaper ones available, but we're buying a high quality one. So let's see what it says, and then we'll look at what the value is supposed to be. Yeah, it's spot on there. Now we will be uprating it voltage wise, I'm sure what we've got, because of these snap-in ones I could use standard radial lead ones, but they're just not the quality. They don't have the ripple rating which this will have. So it's what they call a snap-in one. So it's not quite a CAN electrolytic, it's something in between. So that's out. Remember, we haven't powered up this power supply. So the next thing we'll do is we'll take the small capacitor out. And we'll again note which way it's come out. So it says on the board positive to the left, and it is, it's positive to the left. So it's 100 microfarads, 25 volts. I think we'll be upping all these to 35 volts if we've got those in stock, although they've managed to survive under 25 volts for years. That's absolutely fine, but again, that will go in the bin. So they were still working, but mind you, this probably hasn't worked for 20 years. When it was done, probably 1985, 1987, it's probably never worked since. Well, look at it. It's not even got fag ash in it, has it? Because if these are in heavy use over 40 years, you're going to get dust on the transformer. It's going to pull it in through convection. You're going to get dust on this heatsink, and you're going to get dust on this heatsink. So it's had very little use. So with that, we'll pause the video and go and get some parts. Right, I'm back. So we've got, change his glasses again, switch the soldering iron back on. I would have put 100 at 35, but we've got 100 at 50. The point is, I've got 105 degree here, and the reason I'm putting 105 degree in is it's next to this heatsink. So that's just my belt and braces approach. So that's higher voltage and higher in temperature rating. I think that these power supplies are probably going to run around about 25 volts, so before regulation, and so the last thing I want is a 25 volt capacitor. It just isn't on top of the job, so that's why we would put 35 in. So that's number one. Now we've got one leg in, we can solder the other one normally. So the other one is an RS one, so paying for the privilege there, but we are assured it's going to be good. So we've got a snap-in type. These have been bought that the diameter fit these power supply boards in the Harrier CBHQ. So you'll see it's exactly the same diameter. The old one is 25 volt rated, 85 degrees. The new one is also 85 degrees and it's 50 volt rated. So I don't need to bother with 105 degrees because it's well away from anything which generates any heat. So we've already said it's positive to the right. There we go. Negative to the left. Just removing that bit of pin I cut off. Bend the pin a little bit so it's got a mechanical connection. Could do with the thicker tele solder for this. Good. And of course there's other hole options for different power supply options in different sets. So just get the isopropyl alcohol on this. We did the main board, but I just need to make sure this looks half decent. If you remember, we had to remount the fuse holder. It's not Mr. Chippy's toothbrush anymore. He had that back, it's mine. Right, well, that's our first thing. The second thing is the mains plug, the cord grip isn't in and it doesn't have the shrouded pin, so that's got to go. So we'll get a new mains plug out. I think we only carry black ones in stock because everything we do is aimed at businesses. So it's got a 13 amp fuse in, which is ridiculous. The live was loose and the neutral, well, I could have unscrewed it with my fingernail. So that can go in the bin too. I think the 189 plugs are not a scary amount of money. I'm going to redress this because it's migrated a bit longer than it should. So we'll get a plug out, and once I've done this, we'll do a pat test. Now you'd think it should be earthed because it's a metal case, and that's one train of thought. The other train of thought is this is double insulated because it's an isolated mains transformer. The mains transformer will have an internal thermal fuse, and then the radio is protected by a secondary fuse and a mains fuse. Just out of curiosity, and I've no reason to suspect that this mains fuse has ever been changed, but it should be 0.5 amp. So it's come out with the holder, which is correct. Time delay 500 milliamp. The T is a time delay fuse for those who want to know. F is fast acting. So it's because when you switch something on with a transformer in it, you've got an initial surge, and that takes that into consideration. So that's absolutely fine. But nevertheless, by having a 13 amp fuse as they had in the mains plug, if the wire between where it enters the radio and the mains plug got damaged, well, you know, you've got a risk, haven't you, of a fire. So this is why it needs to be a 3 amp fuse. I mean, you could put a 1 amp fuse in, but it's not that standard, so we'll be putting a 3. So I'll go and have a look in the stores department and see if we can find a plug. I'm sure you don't want a video on wiring a UK mains plug, but we may as well. So the red fuses are the 3 amp type. We'll take one screw out for the cord grip, because we can't be bothered to put 2 in. What we're now going to do, see what they tell you at Rotherham Technical College, do that. That's now captive, it's not going anywhere. I'm going to make sure the earth pin is tight. It is. Slacken off the live, and the neutral. And this type of screw will take either a Phillips type screwdriver, or it will take a slotted screwdriver. Isn't that clever? So I want to make sure that this is dressed correctly. So at the moment, that's too long, and that's why it was dangling out of the cord grip. So we want to snip it off about there. Now if you had got the earth, you'd leave that so that it was the longest, so that's the final one to ever come out. Right, so I don't need to use wire strippers. I've got a built-in torque wrench in my fingers. I know exactly how far to take cutters. Now we're going to twist them and bend them over for a better grip. I don't want any stray wires. So now I've got it like that. I find it easy to put the neutral in first, and you can take the pins out, but I don't need to. Perhaps they'll fall out. And that's nice and tight. And that's gone in properly. And that's nice and tight. And now that's dressed correctly with just a bit of slack. So now we'll put that cord grip screw in. I probably said before, when I was doing my apprenticeship at Groves Organ Builders of Nottingham in church pipe organ restoration, we went on one of our tuning rounds to, I think it was to Sussex, and I just pushed that in a bit more. It's not good enough. There we are. And went to call for the key for this church, And there were two ladies in the kitchen of the house. She was the key holder to the church. Can I borrow the church key, please? Tuning the church organ. Yeah. And they were fiddling around putting a plug on a toaster. Back in those days, nothing came with a plug on it. And so they were doing it with a bread knife. And I said, I've got tools in the car if you want me to help you. And it was, we're women and we're going to put this plug on. Anyway, we spent an hour and a half tuning this organ. When I came back with the key, they were still putting this plug on this toaster. I didn't ask them if they wanted a hand a second time. They'd probably hit me or something. So there we go, we've now got a safe plug. So the next thing we're going to do is pat test it. Right, see whether we've got... I'm looking at the monitor because it's a bit... There's 4 fluorescent lights and there's the overhead bench light. I'll just turn the bench lights off. Does that help? Probably. So, I'd inadvertently switched it on. It's the class 2 test because it's double insulated. So we'll plug it in because it's on all the time. Or is it? Yeah, I think the on and off switch just does the low voltage. Is there a switch on the back? No. There we go. That was straightforward enough because it's double insulated. Normally we're putting the earth on. And it shows the double insulated signal. What am I talking about? Double insulated logo on the back of the radio, which I'll show you. Just put this back. I want to leave that out. So on the back of the radio, it has the square within a square of double insulated. So that's exactly where we know. So now it's going to be the moment. I'm going to unplug the aerial just for convenience. We'll plug this in. Now this bench is on an emergency stop. You've probably seen me before press the emergency stop when I had smoke come out of a Thunderpole 24 volt radio which wasn't 24 volts. I hit the emergency stop button within half a second. So it's on a contactor so the relay drops out. Right. Bench light back on, ensuring the set's off. That's it. Right, we're plugged in. So I'd expect that this power supply runs all the time, but I don't know. So we'll get the £16.99 little multimeter out like you'd expect me to. And we'll find out whether this runs all the time. So chassis is we can use one of those coils. So where is the output? Well, we know the input is there, but we haven't switched it on, have we? So we'll switch it on. And we've got 11.9 volts. So considering that's had new capacitors, just check it at the far end of the... Yeah, 11.95. So we'll start it at 13.2, which I think is where it's supposed to be. Just the preset on the power supply board. Now I've got to do this very carefully because the set's on, isn't it? I don't want it to jump up to 18 volts and ruin the set, having done all this work. So getting the tool in, vertical preset. Try and move the thing so you can see. Knocks the clip off. Put it on there. No, it needs to be a coil. So 11.89. That's lower. We don't know which way he's going to be, do we? 13.2. So we are going to have to switch the test set on because we need to know how many watts the radio is putting out, because I set it up at 13.8 volts. So we'll plug the aerial in. The power meter on this set doesn't, on the test set, doesn't need to warm up. So select picture in picture, because basically we want 4 watts on this meter. So we're on the 30 watt scale, so 5 watts is there and 4 watts is there. So if I plug the mic in, I'm going to put it on channel 20, just like that, and press transmit. It's not quite 4 watts, it's 3.5. So we're going to put this power supply up to 13.8. Key up, and we'll whisk away from 4 watts there. So that's interesting. So I just need to give this set, so we're definitely at 13.82 volts. We're not going to give the power supply anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the transmitter to be up a little bit more. This is what happens when you do it with an external supply and then you do the internal supply. Why there's a difference, anybody knows. Can you see how interested and bothered I am? Now, if you remember, we were turning L9 to set the power, and it is anti-clockwise to set the final output. And if you remember, it's supposed to be 3.8 watts. Well, of course, we're going to set it for 4. Picture in picture's in the wrong position, just excuse me, folks. I like it there. Key up, and we're dead on the 4 now. Let's check it on channel 40. Check it on channel 1. So it's still balanced perfectly. So once you have balanced it and you just need to trim the power, it's just simply L9. Good. I'm just interested to see what the power supply drops to when it's under load. No, I've just put the meter somewhere. Yeah, put it there. Just connect that back up. So 13.82, now it's going to transmit 13.81. That is brilliant. Hardly shifts. Right, I'll put Mr. Chippy's crocodile clip lead over my bench light so I know where it is, in case he comes storming in wondering where it is. So that's the power supply done. Now, if I changed the capacitors weren't faulty, as you know, but they're 40 years old. Wouldn't you think that the power supply will still be doing the same voltage that it was when it was last used? So why was it only doing 12 point something volts? So if you remember, the radio had been tuned up to 4.4 watts badly. It just would have been 4.4 watts on one channel. So it looks to me like the fundamental reason the power was down is the power supply was set up wrongly, because that shouldn't have altered. Right, turn it off, unplug the aerial, and let's see whether we can get the dimmer back into operation. Don't know where this post is. I'll pause the video. Right, so now it's time to do something I didn't want to do. Let's get our own one out. So, there's his January 82. Mine's January 82. My serial number's 12. Their serial number is 884. So I'm hoping to just take the bottom off this. It's like spot the difference, isn't it? I'll see if I can manipulate the camera. Now on the customer set, you will see, if I move the camera, not that far, you will see that I've taken the on and off switch out to get to this so that we can mend all the cut tracks. Now, there's a black wire which shouldn't be there, and there's a green wire that shouldn't be there. Now, I had disconnected them both, but now we can absolutely be certain that the green wire and the black wire, shouldn't be there. So that's got rid of them. So looking at this one, I really don't want to take the on and off switch out of this. That means taking the front off this one as well. So I've just got to check that we've got two wires going there. We've got a wire going... No, we haven't. No, everything else is on the printed circuits on this side. No links that I... No. Anyway, that's ascertained about the black and the green wire. So put that on one side. I'll just check what I've done for continuity. So it had to happen, I had to take the lid off mine, which is really annoying. So, looking down, if we can, at the switch, yeah, there's two resistors missing off the switch. So, we look down here, there's two resistors on the left hand switch, there's two resistors on the right hand switch. Both those resistors are missing on the customer set. So what are they? Well, there we go. That's going to be novel to get to them. Well, the trader manual, just put that on one side. At least that'll show us how they connect. Does tell us. Because it says resistor 207 and resistor 204. So the second switch in, which has got the resistors, You know, they didn't have any need to remove those resistors. They could have just clipped off one end, couldn't they? So it's resistor 207 and resistor 204. I'm still going to have to find out which way round those are. So let's see where 204 and 207 are. .204 and 207. The 27 ohms and 4.7k. So I'm hoping we've got some 1 watt resistors, because that's what I'm guessing they are. 206 and 207. But it's not clear, you know, which way around these are. 206, 207. I'll have to see, have another look and see if I can actually see. 206, 207. Making sure I'm absolutely right. And I'll go looking for our 1 watt resistor kit. Yes, 204, 207. Oh yeah, 204, 207. So it is drawn that they're the end switch, but it doesn't say what the switches are, you see, so that was my confusion. 204, 207, 27 ohms, 4.7k. Pause the video. So when it's some of these kind of parts, we use this comp card system, which is a very expensive way to buying parts. These cards are about £100 a piece. But there's the convenience. So it makes resistors like this, you know, like 65 pence each, but hey, that's how it is. 204, 207, 27 ohms, 4.7k. So 27 ohms we haven't got. And 4.7k we have got. So let's think about that. 27. I don't really want to have to make that up because that's even more expensive. 27. We could put something else in, couldn't we, to make it right? Not really. Not from what we've got. I'll tell you what, we'll put 33 in. That's the safest way to do it. So it's a tiny bit dimmer. Mr. Chippy said like me, as in Tango 21, not him. Right. Put that away. So we still need to know which one goes where. So I'll pause the video. Well, I've done it. So normal, dim, normal, dim. So put the volume control back. I'll just show you. I'll just turn it off. That on and off switch does do mains as well as 12 volts. It's a double pole switch, so it uses a single pole to switch on and off the mains transformer, and the other pole to switch to 12 volts, which is good because it's not leaving the transformer running all the time. Just need to pop back. We've got the two resistors in, the 33 ohm one there, the 4.7k one there. I've just taken that indicator light out so I could solder it without damaging the wires. So we'll just put that back in. It's just in a grommet. Sometimes you'll come up against these which have melted their grommets, but it hasn't happened to this radio. I'll need to get the pliers just to push that fully home. There we go. There we are. So all we're waiting for is a speaker. Pop that on and off switch. I'll unplug it for that, and I'll put mine back together and back on the shelf. And that's why our business model is to have one of each set ever made, so if we have to, we can pull it off the shelf, take it apart, take voltage readings, whatever. So that's taken quite a lot of time, not only to do the links, which they've cut underneath to use the switches for their silliness, but also to work out what we've had to do. Oh, I wish I got a spanner on here. There we are. So when the speaker arrives, it's Friday today, it's now about 2 o'clock. We'll see what day we end up. I'm going to start the audio line 345 when I put my set back together. I have to start it on Mr. Chippy's bench, and that's what's going to happen. So it's Saturday and the speaker's arrived. So he sent this he sent this on Thursday. It should have come yesterday. Sent it recorded, special delivery at great expense, and there was a postal strike yesterday and nobody could be bothered to bring it. So this has been stuck on the bench, and that meant I couldn't do anything on radios, and that is very frustrating and costly to me. So the post office who sold him that service should have told him that it wasn't going to happen. Right, so it's exactly the correct one. So we don't have to mess with making up hardware and things, it'll just go in. So we'll get that fitted and come back to you. Right, there we are. So I put the front back on, and there's the speaker. Fitted. So we'll put the lids back on next. Right, well that's the last screw in it. So it's all put back together, and time to put the aerial in the back. Will anybody be on 19? It's 12:15 on Saturday. Have their mummies called them all in for dinner? got to do now is switch it on and hope I put all the controls in the right position. We have a dimmer that dims. Normal. Mic gain, tone where I want it. That can go down, that can go up, that can go up. Delta tune to centre. Squelch is there. 19er Roger. That wasn't going to happen 2 days succession, was it? Oh, isn't it lovely living in the middle of nowhere? 19er Roger. Oh, we've got a bit of a voice there. So we have it.
Happy Saturday. Good morning, Cole. Happy Saturday to you too. Good Saturday. Yeah, I'm back at here. Oh, God, I got a bit of trouble. Yeah, well, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. He's amazing. First time ever, the power supply failed to make the radio stop transmitting and receiving. Unbelievable.
Oh, we've got power supply's been overheating. Well, it's not often that power supplies overheat when they've only got to deliver about 1.5 amps. But there we are. That's the Midland 76900 brought back from the dead. And, you know, the parts cost has been, with the power supply rebuild, just under £25 plus our fee. So there we are. I'm pleased about that. It could have been, you know, I know he'll have paid a lot of money for it, the end user. In any state, these are going to, you know, cost something. And so I'm glad it was resurrectable. So the next video, which we'll start actually on today, we'll do a scratchy corner test on this later. I'll take this off the bench, and we've got an audio line 345 bass. It's bass special. Thanks for watching.